look, white privilege used to exist, and we think it was wrong. It used to be back in the 60s and the 70s and during the old days, like during slavery times. And we think that was really disgusting, like segregation and all that. And I think black lives had to be heard that time. But now it's all gone. White privilege does not exist at all no more. It is the past. So stop listening to CNN and all these fake news articles. They're trying to trick you in all these. And which is now showing discrimination against people in rural America and to all the whites out there. So I think you, sir, are uneducated. You're really uneducated. You are dumb. You are retarded. I'm sorry.
There is no such thing as white privilege. There's earned privilege in life that you work for. There are those who may have a form of privilege that they exert on others in a form of influence. If there is no
Hi, guys. Welcome and thank you for watching On the Town with Tanya once again. I appreciate you. I hope you have went to our pages, liked and subscribed and told your friends about it. Tonight's topic is stopping racism. Tonight's guest was raised in the Religious Society of Friends, better known as the Quakers, and is the director of a not-for-profit Center for the Study of White American Culture, Incorporated. And she has had a lifelong concern for racial justice and equity. Please welcome Robin Mallison Alpern. Welcome.
Thank you, Tanya. I have to say really quickly, I'm the Director of Training.
Director of Training. I don't know how I missed that.
That's okay.
I apologize. Hey,
our director might have a question for me tomorrow, though. So
yes, sorry, Director. That's totally my fault.
That's okay.
So race is a big thing these days, and that's probably because people are just waking up, in my opinion, which is good. And so now, it's become this major issue and the problem that some sides feel like my side may feel like, why isn't anybody hearing me? Don't they see what just happened? Like what? How could you not see this? And then the other side says, come on, is it really that bad? Like, really? It's not that. That was like 200 years ago. Like, lighten up. Like, why are you always talking about race? So I wanted to have you here because I wanted to, talk about the center. That's most importantly, because the work that they're doing there is the only way I feel that we will be able to finally get on the same page. And hopefully, even if we don't get rid of racism, because people will always have something to pick on, right? At least we'll be at a place where we're comfortable talking, sharing, and respecting each other. So that's my goal. I don't have a fantasy that it'll all end and go away tomorrow because they'll pick some other group. So this is just unfortunate human nature, I believe. So how has racism affected white lives is what I'd like to ask, because it seems like we've been talking about this and having a dialogue for a long time, but now that the critical race theory came in and all this new stuff and the George Floyd, it has made it like literally people are up on the defense, like literally. So I was like, well, let me take a step back. Maybe all this talk and all this change and everything is affecting white people in another way. So I think that's valid. Can you just share that piece and then you'll tell us about CSWAC?
Nobody can say.
Never know the short term and long term. Yeah.
So first, I'm going to a little bit disagree with you about the human nature thing. Okay. Something that we teach in our workshops actually is the history of how racism was constructed in the United States. And when you say, is it affecting white people, that really goes straight to the history, because racism is a system that was constructed in order to grant white people advantages and privileges. And, that's not something that a lot of people like to hear, but when you study the history, that's actually what happened and what is currently happening. So white people are very much affected by racism in terms of that we do have all kinds of benefits and privileges from it. If we have time, I could give you a couple of quick examples.
Okay.
Your videos were these people saying, oh, there's no such thing as white privilege, but there is recent research that has shown that, for instance, if people do a blind study where applicants for jobs send in their resumes, and if one has the name, Malik Washington, and the other one has the name Robin Alpern, who's going to get the job? And, the studies show that Robin Alpern is going to get the job over Malik Washington. So that's one example. Another example is that it's been also shown that police, when confronting in tests, when they are confronting an individual who pulls something from his pocket, if it is a black man, they will statistically think that the black man is pulling a gun or other weapon. If it's a white man, they will statistically be more likely to think that it's a wallet or cell phone. Right. So, these are real examples of white people getting goodies from racism.
Well, I have actually have a video. I was going to wait to play it, but do you mind? And I will tell my viewers, it's a trigger warning technically, because just looking at it is annoying, but nothing actually happens physical. So that's the good news. But it just almost seems like something's going to happen, but you'll see it doesn't. And this is just one example of what Robin is referring to that we didn't play. So watch this clip.
Watch this video, and I'm going to be right back.
Put your hands on the steering wheel. No. What are you reaching for? Oh, whoa. Hey, get out of the car, man. You got a gun right there. Whoa. Get out of the car. There's rights to this. Get out. There are rights to this. Do you have a concern? I will shoot you. Don't get your gun. You put your hand.
Well, it seems like he's not complying. Let's keep rolling the tape to see what happens.
Do it. Do me a favor. Just please step out of the car. That's all we're asking you to do. You're asking me out. Yes. Do it. You know that.
That's two commands he didn't obey. They asked him to put his hands on the steering wheel. He said no. They asked him to step out of the car. Nicely, by the way. And he said no. Well, let's see how it ended.
You got at me, sir? Right now my life's in threat. Okay. Well, we have... I don't see body cam on this, sir. I'm just going to drive away. I'm not going to bother anybody. No, you're not. On the seat. Don't do this. No. Don't do it. Don't.
Well, I wonder why they didn't shoot him. Privileged.
That's an example right there. Because the first thing is like, wait a minute. Not only did he threaten him and he had a gun, but he's also like, I'm just going to drive away. He's telling them what I'm going to do. I'm going to drive away. Okay, you just hold that for thought. So that tells you that's a clear, precise white privilege. But also it shows, in my opinion, with the study that why didn't they ever think that him having a gun was a threat? Never once did they. I've seen a few of these videos. That's just one, but I've seen a few where literally the guy, excuse the expression, but he beat the police officer with the billy stick, and they were like, "Come on, you don't want to do that. Come on, will you stop?" I'm not even kidding. The wife had to come and say, "Come on, will you just go in with them?" It was crazy. I was like, "Wow, that's an example of that's privilege," and that's not to say it as if oh, Robin, it's how dare you have white privilege. Personally, I don't how do you say, I don't hate on someone that has it. I just want them to recognize it and then don't put me in their category. You know what I'm saying? So if we both went for a job or got into NYU, don't say I got in. I mean, I can't give it a good example. Don't say that that my name did not have anything with me not getting the job if my name is Kanifa, right? Versus, I mean, and I hate to say this, but my name has gotten me some privileges, at least on the phone. When they say Tanya Cooper, no one has ever, when every time I've went to a job interview, they're like, "Oh, you're Tanya Cooper? Oh, wait." Right. NYU, and I'm like, yeah, good trick. My grandpa tricked us all. So it's a joke of mine, but it's serious that name. Who'd have thought? It really does. I've seen people not get a job because of their names. It's horrible.
Yeah. Again, these things can be shown systemically and statistically. So somebody might look at that video you just showed and said, okay, well, so that one white guy just happened to get some, genial police officers. It wouldn't have happened that way. But, you can look at statistics and see that, well, no, 1,000 white guys have been let off under those circumstances, and 1,000 black men under the same circumstances.
Yes.
Half of them may be dead already.
Yes, and I'm actually talking that on 5 Black Comments on Saturday. We're talking about that. We have an inmate telling statistic on why and how that is very much a real thing right now. But do you really think, Robin, and I'm pretty sure you do because you wouldn't do the work. I know I've known you, my daughter's 30 years. I think
30 years.
I've known you 30 years. Wow.
That's
wow.
right. Whoa.
That's amazing.
We're not even that old, so how did this happen?
I know, exactly. Well, we're only 25. But do you really think that education will be one of the ways to eradicate racism? Like, am I being unrealistic or?
No, I know that it will be one of the ways, and I appreciate you saying one of the ways, because unfortunately it has also been shown over and over that racism is very deeply embedded, often in an emotional way, to the extent where people are not bothered by the facts. Like I can educate certain people all day long, and they do not care about the facts. They only care about their feeling, and their feeling is that they're afraid of people of color, that they're angry at people of color, that people of color are a threat, and stuff like that. So it's not only education. However, there are a lot of people who just are uninformed, misinformed, ignorant, and who really do want to know what's going on and how they can do better and how they can stop racism. And for those people, education does make a huge difference.
Yes, I believe that. So tell us about CSWAC. How do you say the short version?
We usually call it CSWAC. It stands for the Center for the Study of White American Culture, and it was founded in 1995. It's a multiracial organization that was founded because in working on racism, people tend to focus on people of color, which of course people of color are the targets of racism. And so we do need to be paying attention to how it's impacting people of color. However, white people are also involved in it. And so the center was founded for us to have a better understanding of how are white people involved? How is whiteness involved? What does whiteness have to do with producing and reproducing racism? So we offer workshops on a variety of topics for people to come and learn about how, and it's for everybody. People of any race are welcome at our workshops, but we do especially focus on understanding how white identity and white history and whiteness are playing out to create racism.
Oh, wow. I just got a little feedback there. What exactly is white privilege, for those that don't know?
White privilege is the system of giving advantages and perks to people who identify as white, or people who have light colored skin so that society perceives them as white. And these advantages are occurring across the board in every single area of life. So no matter where you look, if you look at education, if you look at jobs, if you look at housing, if you look at healthcare, if you look in religion, any area you want to look at, what you find is that white people are constantly getting a leg up. Now, there are white people who will say, well, not me. I'm poor. I didn't go to college. My parents were first generation immigrants. We struggled. And, this is true that not all white people are having all of the advantages and perks. That is true.
Right.
But it's also true that generally speaking, across the board, if you show up with white skin, white identity, you are going to get things that will not be granted to people of color. And you will not get things such as being shot in less than 2 seconds, like Tamir Rice, because you have a dark skin. You will not get that treatment. Right. Not statistically speaking.
So you said that very nice, because that's what I was going to ask. I have some people say, I had a girl, friend of mine say, she's from Poland and she works as a house cleaner. And so I don't call her a house cleaner. I say house manager. That's what I call her. And because to me, she does well for herself. But, I think I don't know if she married someone and came here. I don't know what the deal was, but it's not, she didn't marry Daddy Warbucks. Let's just say that. She said, I do not have a white privilege. What is this white privilege? And I said, well, you wouldn't understand it first because of from where you come from is very, and that's not insultive. Just I'm saying where she comes from is very, very poor. So this is a leg up no matter what she gets. It's a leg up. That's number one. Number two, she's platinum blonde naturally and absolutely gorgeous without a drop of makeup. She's a naturalist, so she doesn't do makeup. She's jeans and t-shirt girl. But I don't want to tell her, but I'm like, girl, you are super gorgeous. If you just let that down my hair and you walk out and find another husband beside the one you have, I guarantee you you will see what white privilege really is. Like, you're not taking advantage of it. So I didn't know how to tell her that, but do you think I was wrong for telling her that? Because she says she absolutely does not see, and I think it's because she came here on a marriage visa, I guess. So and her husband's broke and she's the one named the breadwinner. So maybe that's why I'm not sure.
It's also because when you're on top of the heap, as white people are, you don't see what's going on for all the people underneath you on the heap. And so you only see your own struggles and trials. But if you saw in comparison what so many people of color are going through, you'd start to realize. Also, Peggy McIntosh wrote The Invisible Knapsack or Backpack. Now I forget which one it is. Years ago about white privilege. So anybody who doesn't see it, you look up Peggy McIntosh, and she has lists of what are the kinds of things that white people benefit from every single day of our lives that we don't even think about. We're just so used to it. We don't think about the fact that we can pay with a check and the cashier doesn't say, wait a minute, is that check good? Wait a minute. You can't write a check unless it's for at least $50. Stuff that happens to people of color, but it never happens to white people. So we don't even realize that's a privilege we have.
Exactly. That's a big thing. What about this? I know you somewhere in one of your brochures I saw. How are white women the architects of white supremacy? I'd love to hear that.
Oh, so that's actually not a CSWAC course. That's a course that I do independently called The Arc of White Womanhood. And so white women from the beginning in the United States have taken advantage of the fact that our white skin protects us to some degree. As women, we have faced oppression from sexism, right? We've been oppressed by men, but something that has kept us from being oppressed as badly as women of color and people of color is the fact that we share that white skin. And so, unfortunately, white women from early in the United States have been colluding with all the different ways that racism was being constructed. Because again, at least I've got my white skin privilege.
Right.
And there are many specific examples I could give you of this collusion, such as, to me, it was astounding when I found out that white women, lots of them, owned African enslaved people. It wasn't that their white husband owned them and I'm just, his wife. No, plenty of white women themselves were in the buying and selling of enslaved people business. And they were not necessarily nice white women either. So there's a lot more detail that I could go into.
Well, that's one, but maybe this will lead to the other. So I know there's the study that says that kids who grow up in a diverse school are less likely to have so much hatred and usually can get along just a little bit better than other people who weren't raised only around their kind. So with that being said, the women are the mothers. They are the leaders. They are the ones who bring up the fruit to go the way they want them to go. So how has this racism theory kept going generation to generation to generation? Because if your mother's not stopping it, then she's being complacent.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I mean, right? I mean, I would guess. Yes. Your mother's usually the one, very rare. The father, everybody thinks the father's the leader, but the mother really gives the values. And there's some cultures who, they say, mom's the leader. Mom has to raise the kid and teach them the traditions and the values. So with that being said, all right, who's passing on this lovely hatred? And maybe not even sitting there saying, okay, I want you to hate Tommy because he has blonde hair. Maybe not even that. Maybe not saying anything and never putting your kid around Tommy.
Well, that's one way. And, yes, modeling racism without having to say a word about it. But you're absolutely right that women as mothers have played a huge role for hundreds of years in perpetuating racism. That I would say that actually white women have been exploited in that way. Again, we were getting goodies from it, but oftentimes we had to give up stuff too. That's something we talk about in the Arc of White Womanhood. But white women as mothers have been doing stuff like in the time of school integration. It was mothers who chained themselves to fences so that buses could not leave the bus yard.
Yes,
bus kids. You know, it was
many people forget that.
Mothers who stood there and threw eggs and shouted racial epithets at small children of color for trying to go to school. So women as mothers, white women as mothers, have definitely been very hard at work maintaining white supremacy.
Wow, that's a scary thought, because it's just, I really think that if we reach the children and the mothers, we probably could get the men to at least, if not totally change, soften up, because now you got two in your tribe that are like, we're not going for this. I've seen family. I have friends who were raised in racist families, and I was like, how did you know? They said, I just knew. And especially once you get out in the real world and you're looking around, and you're like, wait, why are they talking? Oh, that guy's not robbing nobody. He seems nice. Oh, and he's a lawyer and he's a doc. So something my family taught me. I mean, everybody has that revelation when you leave home and you go to college where you're like, why didn't my parents teach me that? Right? Everybody has that moment of something. It doesn't have to be race. It could be, everybody had new sneakers. It could be anything. But that revelation of racism or sexism or even things like abuse, things like that are passed down to the family. When you go out in the real world, at some point your eyes like, oh, well, maybe that ain't right. Even if you don't follow it, because your heart's probably so stuck on what you was raised that you may not bypass it. Have you ever had anybody in your family that maybe been racist, but you just felt like, I'll let them handle that. I got to deal with my stuff and deal with what I can?
Yes, I have had that happen, Tanya. That's something I'm still wrestling with, and lots of people do. Sometimes your family is like the hardest people to work with.
Yes. Well, what do we say? Go ahead, sorry.
I just wanted to go back to what you were saying, though, about the difference that it makes when adults, whether it's parents or it could be educators or caregivers or people in the faith community or, any adults around a child, when they do start teaching that child, look, here's how it really is.
Right.
That makes a huge difference. And I wanted to mention that we have a workshop coming up in October, beginning October 2nd, Raising Anti-Racist White Children. And it does focus on white kids because, again, we're trying to identify that white people are making a problem and we got work to do. But actually the course is useful for people of any race and has information about supporting children of any race to learn to be anti-racist. Because racism is a system, and the only way, the title of this show tonight is Stopping Racism. Stopping Racism. The only way that we are going to stop a system is by systematically teaching and acting anti-racism.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. So guys, if you're watching, you can look at the name on there and you can go to their Facebook page if you want to know how to get to those groups. And also I had put the link for the website up there. And you can also inbox me if you forget everything I just said. You can inbox me. So Robin, so what about something called the developmental window? I think that's very important when it comes to kids. And that's why I love the work you're doing, because you have something where you can actually teach people how to work with kids.
Yes. So I'll agree that kids do, as when they're very young, they are very susceptible, really wide open learning. So that is a great time. You need to start teaching them from the very beginning.
Right.
anti-racism and taking advantage of their developmental stages.
Right.
However, that does not mean that you should give up. If children are older than that developmental window, I've seen adults in our workshops turn around. People at any age can recognize, oh my God, I've been wrong. I need to relearn.
Yes. I had a lady who was like 60 years old. And she was like, wow, I never even thought of those things. And I really believe what she says, because when you buy a house in the Back Ridge or Pound Ridge somewhere, I mean, what else would you see? If your kids are going off to a private school, what else would you see? So sometimes I say, now, is that intentional, or because you're really trying to set them up for the great future and you just want them to have the best advantage of everything? That's okay. There's nothing sinful or wrong about that. I don't have no problem with that at all. But okay, so why aren't you having play dates with other kids of other cultures? Why aren't you taking them to a park where they can see other people? Just so that, because sometimes you don't have to say anything with kids. If they just see you model, that's enough. That's enough. My kids see me with Asian friends, and they know the difference between Chinese and Vietnamese and Filipino. They know the difference. Why? Because I took time to expose them around all different types of Asians, not just one, like everybody thinks. You know what I'm saying? So that's, that's so important. The modeling, I think that is, if they can't even speak, that's fine. What they see is what they're going to fear or not fear. And I've had people say, well, my parents always told me never to go to the South Side, and that I'm never supposed to be around black men. And so I grew up fearing black men. And I said, well, at what point did you realize that your mother was absolutely wrong? She said, when I got to college and all the black men were nice, and they were not what everything she said, they were not. So I was like, doing my own math, and I was like, this is not adding up. So then I just started exploring more. Let me see who's around to friend and who to talk to, and let's dialogue. And now I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I ever listened to this woman. She had that revelation I talk about.
Yeah.
You wake up and realize, oh, my parents did that, so.
Right.
I talked to somebody, I asked some young people about this. How come you guys don't have as much issues with race technically? I mean, you got some Proud Boy type kids, you got those. But overall, at least in my area, not everybody. I won't say everybody. At least my daughter's friends. Let me stick to that. I better rephrase that, because I know some that I'm like, you're shady, questionable racism on the way. So that's true. But my daughter's friends, I said, how come you guys, some of them, they don't have that issue? Like I said, I've watched them, I've observed them, and they're amazing. And they told me, well, we talk about stuff. No matter how hard or painful it is, we talk. Did you see that? Well, why did this guy think that was okay to do this? And you know what, that Karen, I don't know. And they keep it 100%. So if I'm feeling like, well, I didn't think nothing was wrong with that, I'm not going to judge her and say, oh, well, why don't you see anything wrong with it? What I'm going to do is listen to why she thinks that's okay, which is what I think. That's the only thing I can offer. I mean, I don't think, here's another theory. I don't think black people have anything to quote unquote learn about racism. We are the byproduct of racism, but we do have to, when we get the opportunity to listen, and then, step back and see how that plays out.
Yeah. You said something that I think is really key there about that your daughter and her friends are talking about things, because a lot of kids right now, people would say, oh, they're fine, they're doing great because they have friends of different racial backgrounds and so on and so on. But many of them have been raised to be colorblind, and they never talk about race and racism. And so there's like this veneer, it looks all good, but the moment something happens a little bit off, the white kids don't know what to do. They're completely at sea. They don't know how to talk about what's going on. They have all kinds of racist stereotypes in the back of their mind that come forward when something happens. So it is really important for kids to know that we got to talk about race, and for adults to talk with them about race and racism.
Exactly. I've had even black folk that tell me, I don't want to talk about that. That's so long ago. And I was like, you wonder why you couldn't get that job yesterday, girl. I don't even want to tell you. So I don't even have that dialogue with some African-American folks who are like, no, like, and I understand what people say when they say it's about your character and, you know, you can get anything you want in America if you really work hard. And that is essentially true. I mean, if I really, really, really want something, I think I can really, really get it regardless of my color. I just will have a really, really, really hard time depending on what that is and where that is. You know what I'm saying? So I
was going to push back right there, Tanya, but I don't know.
No, I'm just saying, like, no, I'm not agreeing with those people that say that. I'm saying in my head, because I was raised that I won't make any excuses, but I will call you out. So you know what I mean? There's a difference. Well, I'm not going to sit. I'm not going to sit and sulk. I'm going to try to see how can I do change? What can I do to do change? First, I start with me, and then I start with the people that I know. So if I see you saying things that are reckless, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop whoever it is. If I see you doing things reckless, I'm going to ask you, I'm just curious, but why did you do that? You know, because I think the dialogue is everything. Like you can't get any change if you're not talking about it at all. And I learned so much. There's a great group that meets once a month, and they are magnificent. Sustainable Conversations. Joyce, Helena Joyce, and Chris Yin. They're just amazing, absolutely amazing. And they have this dialogue with everyone of all colors, all backgrounds, all everything. You name it, they're in this group, and they have honest dialogue. Honest, like, so someone may say, I was raised in the South at a very racist time. I'm 90 years old. What do you want from me? And so everyone will say, well, I'm 90 and I was raised in that racist time and I couldn't even drink the same water fountain. So they come to this meeting of the minds that, wow, so we really have to change something here. And I have to take responsibility that, I just, everything goes over my head with race because I didn't have to deal with it. And I was on the winning side of it, so it didn't bother me. So dialogue is everything. Tell us about some of your classes, because I can't believe the time. Are you okay for time?
I have not been looking at the clock. You're going to tell me when I got to shut up.
No. Good. I just want to make sure I wasn't holding you. So tell us about some of the classes.
Well, we have coming up next week. We're starting our What White People Can Do About Racism Part 1. There are 2 parts to that workshop, and part 2 will be offered in September, I think. And, you know, that's a basics workshop, if you will, but it's actually not so basic. We've had people who are pretty advanced come along and find new things in that workshop. So we go over, you know, what does racism mean? Because a lot of people don't even know the definition of racism. They're working from an old-fashioned understanding that it's, you know, one person being mean to another person. So we go over, no, actually about it's systemic, it's historically constructed, etc. We also look at what are costs of racism for white people. That's something that's pretty new territory for a lot of people. And not like reverse racism, which doesn't exist, but just like looking at how this system is damaging for all human beings. So maybe wouldn't that be a good incentive to cut it out? So so there's What White People Can Do About Racism, parts 1 and 2, to give you some really foundational stuff you need to know as an anti-racist. We also have Transforming White Organizational Culture. That's our newest workshop, actually, and which is developed because all across the country, what we have is organizations and institutions that are predominantly white, right? Because white people are in power and have control and the resources and wealth and everything. So that's a very common pattern, is to have white dominated institutions. And how are we going to change and end racism if that's the case? So we have this workshop on supporting people to come from their organizations, their institutions, and look at how can I make change at the organizational level. Wow. And you do private consulting as well, right? We do, and we also can go into institutions. Yeah, so if a school wants us to come and work with their staff and administrators and so on, we can do that kind of work. Okay. And what can African Americans do? Can we listen more? What can we do? Because some people say, listen, we need to take a break because we done did everything we can and we're blue in the face, so we could just take a break. Do you have any suggestions? Because I've taken your class and I actually learned something. That's where I learned to listen. Because before I'd be like, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say about, you don't know about racism and blah, blah, you know, that's my typical thing. And then I was like, wait a minute, she's got a valid point. If she was raised in a racist household,
where else would she get it if she doesn't watch a lot of TV? so
Yeah.
sometimes you have to teach people. But any suggestions that would make it more, doable? I'll say.
Well, I'll be honest and say I'm uncomfortable giving advice to people of color, particularly Black people, about what you should do.
Okay.
I am very comfortable giving advice to white people about what white people.
I gotcha. It makes sense. So I'm gonna tell the Black folk. Sometimes we gotta listen and hear what that person's past was like. And then we move forward then you can have dialogue. But if I just shut them out and say, well, she was raised in a racist household, I ain't talking to her. And I'm holding her, her parents hostage for something that they embedded in this woman or man. Sometimes you have to stop for a second and breathe and say, whoa, wait a minute. I actually talked to a very racist person once. And now they're no longer racist. They actually see my way, and I was able to see why they were so, malicious or whatever the word is. They had a lot of issues going on, but we talked for so long that I think they just let their guard down, and I let my guard down, and then we got to humanness. Once you get to humanness, then you say, we're more alike than not, and then the real thing starts.
Yeah, I would agree, Tanya. I think that there are times when we do, for instance, that exercise in our foundational course about costs of racism for white people. I think that there are some times when the people of color in the room learn things they didn't know about how white people have been damaged. And it's not to, now make people of color feel bad for white people. That's not the point. But to just understand that, oh, okay, now I can kind of get what's going on over there. And I think it's always helpful when you have an idea of what's going on for other people.
Right.
Also, I think that sometimes it can be inspiring. I've heard this from some of our participants of color, that they were inspired to see white people actually getting down to it and getting to work.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about one of your classes, raising anti-racist white children. We didn't talk about that, right? One of the classes.
Well, I did mention, so that's the one that's coming up in October, and that's a great workshop for any adults who have anything to do with children, which is hopefully, most adults. Because again, kids are being raised in the system. So no matter what, Beverly Tatum says in her famous book about why are all the Black kids sitting together in the cafeteria, she talks about racism as being like smog. So everybody's breathing the smog. So it doesn't matter, even if you're the best intentioned people in the world doing the best thing, raising your children are part of a society that is daily, minute by minute, teaching them race and racism. So our workshop on raising anti-racist white children, and again, which is open to people of all races, is it's a deep dive into, okay, how are kids learning? When are they learning it? Which is from the beginning. So many people tell me, oh, the kids are fine. We raised them colorblind and they're fine. They're not fine. By the age of 3, children can distinguish racial groups and know that white people are considered superior by the age of 3. But they also know that they're not supposed to be talking about this stuff, so they will hide things from their parents and other adults. So you'll think, oh, they're fine, but they're actually calling each other names and bullying and all kinds of things that you don't realize. Anyway, so our workshop helps you to educate children so they won't do that. So they will be anti-racist.
What about parents who say, because this happens with the critical race theory, oh, you're going to teach my children how not to like being white, and you're going to teach them to hate themselves. And that's what I'm hearing with the critical race theory. I'm like, oh, gosh, please stop. Please stop. So what do you think about when the people say that one?
Well, first of all, it's important to know that critical race theory does not teach any of that stuff. That's what people are afraid of. That's what they imagine. That's what they themselves think and feel. But it is not what CRT teaches. In our workshop, we actually have a segment on building a positive racial identity for white children. It's one of the ironies of racism that nowadays white children have poor self-esteem. because
Yes.
because they are beginning to recognize that, oh my God, my people are doing terrible things.
Yes.
So we have a segment on how to help white children be anti-racist without blaming and shaming themselves, without beating themselves up. That's a really important section of the workshop.
Absolutely. You need to come to our school district. I'm just saying.
I'm coming.
They need to, if you're listening
Tell
to
me the
the
day.
school district, you need to bring Robin over there. I'm dead serious because I sat in on it was a voting for one of the board members, and I was like, whoa, people got up and they're like, we don't want critical race theory here. They're going to teach our children to hate themselves. We even had a lady from some other people from other countries saying, I came here with $2 and this country is so great. There's no racism. The cops are lovely. They're so nice. I was like, girl, wait till you learn about 20 years. You're going to take that back. No, I'm joking. It's a joke. But, I was like, my brain was like fried from listening to them. And one lady was Black. She was from like Somalia. And she was like, I came here with $5, my father. And what'd she say? I can't believe Black people are so ungrateful for this great country.
Yes.
I was like, ungrateful. Well, after we picked the cotton or before? I'm just saying.
And it often makes a difference whether you were raised here or you weren't raised here. If you were raised here and have been the target your whole life of racism, that's going to have a different impact on you from if you grew up in a different country and now you come here.
Absolutely. I'm trying to preach that to people, but let's see if they get it. So having racist parents, that should not be an excuse, right? At this point, in 2021 with YouTube, I think that would not be a good excuse. Right. I was that way because of my parents.
It's not a good excuse, but I have to admit, if you got racist parents, that's going to be tough because, then you're going to have to break out. If you've got anti-racist parents, they're already helping you along. But
yes,
if you got racist
you gotta break
parents,
out that shell.
Somebody else is going to have to break you out.
Yes, that's true, and I get that. I've seen some of my friends' parents. We used to go and pull up to the driveway, but we wouldn't go all the way in because I was the Black person in the car, and so we would actually laugh. We made fun of it actually, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't so funny, but she'd be like, all right, so we're going to wait here because we don't want to see who's in the car. And we run out in the night because it was a bet that she would never come to the door, which she never did.
Wow.
Thank God she was like a hoarder and she never left the house. So we were lucky. But I've seen literally dealt with people who were like, no, you can't come in. I'm like, why not? When you're like 7, I'm like, well, my parents don't feel well. And I'm like, really? Do they think I'm going to steal something? So I've had it. I've seen it and had it before. But so decentering whiteness and building multiracial communities, that is prevalent.
Yes, so that's one of our workshops. And actually, that is our mission statement. Is that our mission is to work for an equitable and just society by decentering whiteness and building multiracial community. And when we first started saying that back in 1995, that was really new. That was groundbreaking. People didn't even know what we were talking about. Nowadays, we are seeing more and more people using that phrase, decentering whiteness. And the idea there being, not kill whitey.
No.
That's not what it's about. But it is about recognizing that whiteness has been dominating, and that's messed up everybody. So we don't kill it, but we move it to the margins.
Right.
And the only thing is that what people mostly aren't talking about is, well, what happens after you move whiteness to the margins? You have to have something in the center. You have to have like a focal point at the center of society. So that's where the other part comes in that we are trying to teach people about, is building multiracial culture and community. So how do we actually do that? We don't know. People don't know how, because we have never had that in this country. We've had integrated communities, but they weren't necessarily anti-racist, right? That's a big difference between just mixing it up with different cultures and different races and having actual anti-racism so that whiteness is no longer dominating and got a multiracial center.
Well, one thing you mentioned something, and I want to speak on that. Black people. I always tell my friends, and we laugh about this, but it's serious. I've never known any Black people that wanted to wake up and hang somebody or beat somebody down from a tree or anything. Even if someone came out in front and they said, "Well, we're gonna," I mean, well, Hitler's an exception, so we can't use him as an example because I might not be Quaker anymore. But let's say any other bad white person, if someone came and brought them before a Black mob, unless they abused the child or something like something serious, or a senior citizen or something where code rule says no, this can't happen. Most of us, I'd say 99% of us, would never be sitting there getting revenged, because we're just not. And since the day they brought us over here on these boats, we've never been a revenge-seeking people. Some of us, you have Garvey. You have a few people that did revolts or something like that. But as a whole, it's not in our. It's just not evilness, in my opinion, is not in our violence. How do I say it? Evilness, violence? I don't know what word I'm looking for. Is not in our DNA. Revenge is the word. Is not really in our DNA. And had it been, there'd be a lot of people dead by now.
That's right.
I mean, starting with having to breastfeed slave masters' babies, feed them, and we had to feed them. I mean, we could have did so many trickeries if we were that type of people, but we weren't. And I don't understand how, white people are so afraid, when the truth is, as my one of my I'm a co-host of someone else's show, Five Black Comments, and he always says, Black people should wake up and go out their door and be like, white people, we should be traumatized every time oh my God, we should be the ones jumping, because we're the ones that have received generations of major trauma, not even like a little bit, a lot of it.
Yes.
And so I can never understand how when I go somewhere and someone grabs their bag, I'm like, girl, why are you grabbing your bag? It's not even a Chanel. I mean, really, like, just, and I joke about it, but I'm serious. Like, are you really grabbing your bag? Like, do you look at me? Do I look like I would take a bag, first of all? And then second of all, can you at least give me credit and let it be like a Birkin bag or something? Like, like it would, if I was going to if you're going to put me as a criminal, at least better let it be something nice. Like, I walk by your car and it's a Honda Civic, which they're probably nice cars, but it's not like the newest Bentley or something. I don't know what that is. I don't really like cars, but I'm just going to use that example. And, it's not the latest. And so I'm standing next to it. And so you think I was about to get into it? Like, why would you think that? So it just boggles my mind that we've been through the most trauma, but we're the most trusting, or even if it's not trusting, what's the word? We don't have this vengeance to say, when that white lady walks by me, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? That's a very rare thing. And that's usually lumped off to the young kids that are being knuckleheads. But adults and Black people in general, we don't walk around saying, I'm going to get that man or white man or black. We just don't do it, because it's just, I don't know why we don't do it, but we just don't do it. So I don't understand why people are afraid of us, afraid that something great revelation is going to happen. Because even if we have these dialogues and we do create some change in the real history, make some real histories, it still doesn't take away from you as a human being. No one's trying to come and kill you, as opposed to the opposite with us. People came to try to kill us, and they still are trying to kill us. So there's a big difference. And I wish people would wake up and just at least see that,
Yes.
Anyway, I know time is of essence, but what's my last question for you?
Well, can I say something quick to that one?
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to keep it really quick, but one is that I have seen information about DNA of white people, that empathy has been affected. Our DNA is such that we do not have the empathy that we ought to have and could have. And fortunately, empathy can be taught.
Yes.
So, that's important to do, to be teaching white children empathy very purposely and consciously. But that's part of the explanation for.
I know some people who have it, and I keep saying to myself, how did they get that? Some of my friends, some of my white friends, I'm like, I know, like, I can't explain it to you, but there's some of my white friends that I just, like, I even have to I can't explain it, but the things they do, I'm like, maybe in the past life, I don't know. Maybe we were siblings. I can't explain it really. And it's not everybody, obviously, but there's some people I'm like, they have such, I can't explain it, soul that I know that when I speak of my pain, I can see it in their expression, their body language, everything, their voice, their tonation, that they know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Even if they don't have to experience it, they just feel it. And I don't know why that is. But I wish everybody had that, because then we really would have got somewhere already if everybody had compassion and understanding. But anyway, what do you think when people say, I have no issue? What do they say? I don't see color. I used to say that. I don't see color. What would you say to me?
That you do so see color. The brain processes things like racial, like skin color. Sorry, never mind racial. It processes things like skin color in milliseconds. So it's actually a lie that you don't see color. Yep. And so, because the brain is wired for survival, and it is important for our survival to see all kinds of details, one of which is skin color and other features that we associate with race. So then you have to ask yourself, well, if my brain actually does see and process race, features that are connected with race in milliseconds, why would I say I don't see color? Well, the answer is obvious. It's because once you see color, then you can see racism. And if you can't see color, then you can go around not being aware of racism, not being aware of your white privilege if you're a white person. You can just not have the whole conversation. So I would tell you, stop lying. And even ask yourself, why were you lying? Why was it important to you to pretend that you can't see color? Oh, is it because there's a huge ocean of shame? And not for you as a Black person, but I'm talking to a white person now. The shame and the guilt and the regret and the rage and the terror that sits under there because of race and racism and our history. Is that why you don't want to see color? Just maybe?
Wow. Well, that's, it sounded like a sermon on Sunday morning. I'm sorry. But I want to go to a couple of the viewers. Hey, guys, thank you guys so much for watching out there. I see you guys. So thank you, Elizabeth and Carl. I see you. Carl had a question. He said, I think you might have answered already. Why are some white people in such denial? I think you just summed it up beautifully. Let's see. Who else? Somebody had a... Education is important, Elizabeth said. Carl, what'd you say? Several of my white friends have told people caught them with drugs. The drugs were taken and they were sent home. One even got a ride home. He was saying in a pullover situation. Yeah, that's called privilege, and that's okay. I mean, I will say, I have had a couple of incidents that were very bad with police, and I'm not a criminal, and I've had one or two where they were very nice to me, but that's because it's my area and I know them. So I think that's what happened.
Yeah, again, Tanya, I'm glad that you didn't have terrible experiences. But again, if we look at statistically,
right,
you look at what happened with Dylan Roof after he killed all those people, and then
Donald, I know. No, I've had a couple bad, very bad. I mean, traumatizing. I should be like, if my ex-stepfather was not a police officer, I probably would be like, I'm writing them all off. But I can't do that because I know that was just those two jerks, not.
Okay, I apologize for stating that.
Oh yeah, no. I'm just saying, because some people say, oh, we have nice police officers. I said, well, where I live, as of today, I've never had a problem so far, knock on wood. And our guys are, they train them well. They're not like happy shooters and happy egotistical. And I've seen situations where they were called and they're fair to everybody. So that's just only my area. Now, I would not want to go to Minneapolis. I would not want to go out in the Midwest, and I definitely ain't going nowhere in the South. So that does not apply to them. But I will say, I've been blessed a couple times. And who's this? Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. First, we have to get out of denial that racism doesn't exist in order for us to be open. Yes, exactly what you said. You can't get a new idea from a closed mind. Oh, that's very prevalent. Yes, that's very true. Who's this? I thought Kimberly says, here she is. I find the DNA an empathy comment fascinating. Can you point me to the study of research article that shows this? I have never heard of this before. I recently did my DNA for me and my kids, and the amount of different races, ethnic background in their DNA surprised me. Now DNA shows so much. Yes, Kimberly. Robin might have an example for you too as well. But I saw something on that, but I didn't hold the name and the journal to cite it from. I mean, I can maybe, Robin, if you find it, let me know, and I'll send it to her.
And I would encourage Kimberly to try Googling it, because honestly, I don't remember right offhand where did I get that, but I'll look. And also sometimes Google is our friend.
Yeah, I've seen it before too, but I didn't write it down because I didn't think I needed it. I wasn't doing the thesis or nothing. So, but that's a good question, Kimberly. And there's lots of stuff actually. I'm starting to see stuff now, and I was like, wow, I can't believe someone's saying that. I can't believe it's being said actually even on television. So there's lots of there. If you Google it, you will find it. And I just came across someone yesterday, but I did not. He's a professor, and I did not the school and all that stuff because I was just chip flicking through different stuff on race. So that's why. But it's a very interesting, Kimberly, DNA. Many of us will find that we have multiple things in us, including myself. So that's why, to me, I don't know. Racism never makes sense.
If I can find it, I'll send it to you, Tanya.
Okay, yes, because I know her. I can give it to her. Bulletproof vest and a burger. Yes, that's right. For Dylan. Hi, Yvonne. How are you? Yes, that's right. He sure did. And who else? So thank you, guys. So I think that's it for my questions. So one thing I'm going to ask you before we go is tell us about your book. Let's see. Writing My Heart Out, an artist's tapestry. Am I taking you back too much?
You're going to go there. It's just that's well, it doesn't have anything to do with anti-racism. I'm sorry. I'm seeing Edie G on screen. Is that my colleague Edie Grauer?
Oh, hi, is that Edie? Identify yourself. Unmask yourself.
Edie Grauer is a co-trainer with me at CSWAC. So
hi, Edie. How are you? I can't tell. Edie, say something.
I can't tell you. There could be a different Edie G, but
yes, it could be, but probably yours. I have the more empathy for animals. Oh, Carl. Sorry, Carl said white people have more empathy for animals.
I work closely with a Black anti-racist community organizer who's been in the field for like 40 years. His name is Daryl Davis, and he says the same thing. He's always talking about how white people will come out to save the whales, but save a Black man, I don't know.
Yeah, I got something to do. I gotta make my hot chocolate. I do stand-up comedy, and I have a joke about that. But because I started seeing, I said, wait a minute. They got a season that you can actually hunt the bears, and a season you can hunt the deer or get the fish, right? The bass season, all that stuff, right? And you can't do it all the time. I said, why aren't they giving Black men a season? Because this is crazy. I mean, can you give us a break? I mean, something. It's crazy. I saw a lady raise $60,000 in 2 hours for cat shelter.
Wow.
Cat shelter. I said, you got kids out here who don't have a home, foster youth, and they were there like you had said, the children are going to die if you do not feed them tomorrow. Everybody's like, here's $1,000, here's $2,000, here's $5,000, here you go.
And at the same time, Tanya, I gotta say, as a cat lover,
yes. I was gonna say.
But what I want to say is that it ultimately still comes down to that it's our country as a country that is systemically oppressing people of color. And so it's not even about who raised money for the cat shelter. Like, you should be able to do that. Right. If our country, if our society would change its ways, we would have so much money for the cat shelters, for the whales, and for all the people of color who are being oppressed and don't have housing, don't have education, don't have health care. We would have enough money for all of that. So I want us to remember that, yes, it makes a difference what we do at the personal level. That woman could maybe now turn around and see if she could raise that amount of money for Black Lives Matter. Right. But also, we ultimately really need to be looking at institutionally, systemically, how are we going to change the course of this ship? Okay. I think that is that's the final note, guys. How are we going to change the course of this ship? And that means that we all have to be out here doing the work. Yes, we do. Have to all
be considerate of other people, listen when we can. And, I'm myself included, there's days where I'm like, oh, why'd you say that? And then I have to stop and say, relax. They think that's the truth. Like that kid in the video, he really thought that was the truth. And you could tell he was a little special, but that's another story. He really thought that was the truth. I can tell by his tonation, everything, that someone raised him, or the people he's around, the circle he's around, really embedded that thought into his head. So it's gold. It's gold to him. So I can't just dismiss it and be like, well, he's stupid. Doesn't he know that's not true? Because that's how he was raised. So, tell Jack I said hi. My little friend there. The bottom line is we have work to do. And I suggest, if you have grandkids or kids, you have a lot of good work to do that can really start the process, so that in 10, 15 years, it'll be lightening up a little bit, because like my grandson will be raised to appreciate and love all people, and to know about different cultures and different places and different languages. He know that there's more than 100 languages in Africa. It's not just African. Those are crucial. I think it's so important, Robin. And I just think, let's see, is that Edie? Yes, it's Edie, your colleague. I got kicked off.
Hey, Edie.
Hi, Edie. I wish you could have
Awesome.
came. Oh, hi, Edie. Thank you for joining us. But yeah, we have a lot of work to do, Robin. That's the bottom line. If anyone wants to reach Robin in the school, not school, I said that wrong. The center. Okay. I apologize. The center. Okay, so I apologize for that. I get a little, you can reach out to me. And I also put the, when you go back and look at the thread, the information's there for the website as well. And Robin, do you have any last request?
I want to say, since we talked about a lot of work to do, I want to say, for white people in particular, that doing this work is rewarding in a way that you cannot imagine until you begin to do it. It is huge to know that you are part of making things right. And so, yes, it's hard work. Yeah, it can be painful and scary and cost money, and you have to give up some privilege and stuff. So these are things that sometimes keep people away from doing anti-racism work. But I am here to tell you that your life will transform, and you will be so grateful that you are in the movement and doing the work.
Absolutely. So guys, we must do the work. I just put that advertisement up there. And we must do the work. I'm committed to doing the work, and I'm committed to tapping you on the back if you're not doing the work. I got no problem with that, in a nice, loving, kind way, though. I won't be rude about it. But we got work to do, guys, and I'm willing to do it. I hope everybody that's watching today, that you're willing to do it, that you're willing to take the step and say, you know what, my grandkids or my kids need to, maybe we've been teaching them a little bit, unconsciously teaching them things that's not going to be good later. So maybe I need to correct that now. So take the responsibility as a parent. All my friends out there, I love you guys, because as soon as I say, oh, we got work to do, everybody's like, all right, what do we got to do? So there's some people I just love because they get it and they're willing to do the work, but we can't do it by ourselves. We've got to do it together as a community. So I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys again on Saturday with 5 Black Comics. We are talking about, do Black men commit more crimes, or do they just get locked up more because of a lot of ill reasons? I think that's why. But we're going to talk about it Saturday, 5 o'clock Eastern time. So I'll see you then. And Robin, hang out for one moment. And I thank you guys, all the viewers, Emery, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Yvonne, I see you guys. Kimberly, everybody. I see you all there. Elizabeth, Carl. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and all of Robin's constituents who are watching. We thank you. And don't forget about those classes, guys, please. I've taken the class. I promise you will get something out of it. I promise you will walk away with a newfound appreciation for just human beings. All right. Bye, guys.